Welcome to Women Defining AI, a podcast about learning, leading, and redefining AI through diverse perspectives. Here we explore the journeys, insights, and work of women and non-binary individuals shaping the field because the future of AI should be built by all of us. So we're going to dive in with our guest today, Sandhya Simhan. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what got you into AI?
Thank you for having me. Actually, I started off my career in psychology. I thought I was going to go into marketing and just to earn a little bit before grad school and then go back to get my clinical psych degree. And then almost 15 years later, here I still am, still no clinical psych degree. But, I think psychology really started my love of marketing, of how you affect how people think. And marketing is really just an applied variation of that. And so that's kind of how I got started, learned my marketing foundations in the consumer goods world, dabbled a little bit in gaming, and then eventually made my way over to tech. And then I've gone through a variety of different roles at different companies. And now I work at a fantastic startup that's really pushing AI literacy forward at the company level at a company called Glean.
Yeah, when I met you, I think you were still chief of staff and thinking about your next
Yeah.
move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I spent some time at Intuit doing social marketing and partnerships. Then I created a new function called experimentation. And then I really entered AI when I went to deeplearning.ai and I started Andrew Ng as his head of marketing and personal comms. That was sort of my first exposure to the magic. This was GPT-2 days, so nobody knew what I was talking about except machine learning geeks. And I kept thinking, oh my God, no one's going to care about this until a marketer really understands it and makes it usable, or a designer. And then I think I left to go to Meta in late 2021. And then a year later, they came out with ChatGPT. And that sort of spurred that entire revolution. I was like, I still remember, I think one of my most popular posts on LinkedIn is still my thesis that ChatGPT was not a technology transformation. It was a UX advancement for AI. And that's what made it available to everybody, making these large models available through APIs, through natural language. And I still believe that there's so much to be done in the AI UX space. So that was my thing. And I was watching it from the side while I was at Meta. And then I decided that I wanted to try my hand at being a chief of staff. And so I went to go run a very large organization, quickly realizing that I am much more of a marketing person and not a systems person. And that when I do build systems, it's because I like the marketing that it enables. So did my tour of duty there. And then at that point, I'd been in Women Defining AI and I'd sort of kind of regained, I thought I'd missed the boat on AI. And this was my way of regaining my ability or my edge that I had. And that's how I landed up at Glean.
There are two things that you said that really stood out. One of those is the UX piece and how that GPT was a UX transformation, and I totally agree with that. So this is the other thing that stood out. My background is in marketing, and I think you will always be a marketer. You just can't get away from
You know how to
that.
think otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, you can't get away from that. But my background's in marketing, and I went and got a degree in AI, and we coded in R and Python and all of these other things. And when I left that, which was 2019, I was like, okay, well, I can't do this every day. I was not great.
Uh,
So
terrible coder.
awful. So once ChatGPT came out, and I remember a friend messaging me, and it was a group of us from grad school, and she's like, have you seen ChatGPT? This thing is insane. And when I tell you that changed my trajectory, it was a game changer. So I still know, obviously, the underlying stuff, having gotten that master's. But yeah, the UX and making it more accessible, I totally agree with that.
So even, to be honest, it wasn't just regular ChatGPT that was magical to me. I was like, okay, I get it. I understood the technology behind it. So I was like, okay, yeah, it's a probabilistic, whatever. There was a point where I think custom GPTs came out. That was the moment that triggered, this is it. This is the moment. Because I was able to dump, and this is going to sound so dumb, I was able to dump all of the paperwork that my kids' daycare sends me and dump it into a custom GPT and then ask it all my questions. Because instead of pinging the daycare director every time and be like, what's the latest I can drop her off again? Without getting a tardy, I could just ask this instead. And that was the moment for me where I was like, oh, this is going to change how businesses function. And therefore, it's going to become something that everybody picks up. And therefore, it's kind of like laptops and mobile phones. The technical literacy had to happen in the corporate world in order for it to really be enabled and then magicified in the consumer world. And so that was the magic of it for me. Is like you needed to have a BlackBerry, and a Nokia phone before you could have an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that ChatGPT and these in-a-box versions of LLM access that we see today, they are very much the BlackBerries of the AI era. And we're going to eventually get to smartphones, but no one knows what those look like yet, right? Eventually, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or somebody else, someone's going to figure out how to crack that nut. I'm at a company that I think is going to be one of the ones that build that.
It's funny, I was reading an article earlier, and I think is OpenAI's prediction maybe 2028, and that's when they say it's going to explode. But I think Microsoft came out and said, oh, it's going to be longer than that. So I don't know. I'm curious. Like, if you had to throw a year on it, what do you think? What do you think that smartphone of AI is going to be?
I think it's going to take a couple years, mostly because for the smartphone, it took a generation that had been teenagers
That's fair.
during the digital noise era
Mm-hmm.
to get through high school, get through college, maybe even grad school, and then hit the market. And so that was the first era. Millennials were the first digital native era.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the ones who created all of this, magic that you see. Like, I love Steve Jobs, but he had a whole team underneath him that was building every component that he was dictating. And I think, like, you're going to see, like, it's not quite Gen Alpha, but like somewhere in the middle, you need that group to really hit, maybe Gen Z, I think is what they're called. But like, you need them to hit the workforce. And that's going to happen in the next 5-ish years.
Mm-hmm.
But when they hit the workforce, a group that has been raised on social media, that's been raised on connections, that's been raised on touchscreen and multimodal and instant access to the internet and all these magical things, when they hit the workforce and they go, oh my God, I can't deal with Outlook, that's when you're going to get the next version and the next iteration. But I think it's going to take a little while. And it's not to say that folks who are older can't come up with those insights. I think that's a touchy subject. And I also think that there's a lot to be said for, hey, I'm going to really benefit because I have over a decade of experience focusing on my craft to then apply to make AI to help me get better. But a lot of folks don't have that. And so it's going to be this really interesting thing where before it was always whoever adopts a new technology will benefit with every generation. But now we're hitting a point where you need to know the craft. And you may not learn the craft because you're AI native. And so now all of a sudden there's going to be this intersection of craft first versus technology first. And that's going to create a ton of friction. But out of that friction is going to be the magic of the smartphone of the AI era.
Love that perspective. The craft first, because to your point, I'm learning AI by applying my craft to it or using it to get better at what I already know.
Exactly.
Whereas I'm going to have a 15-year-old niece, that's just what she's going to know, and it's going to teach her everything. It's going to teach her.
Well, I see this with my 23-year-old niece and my cousin as well, where they're just entering the workforce and they don't have the crafts yet, but they have the digital skills. And so the onus is on them. Like, they're the first generation that's dealing with this truly, especially because the industry is changing so rapidly. And so their focus is on learning the craft and outshining their peer set as quickly as possible. And so if anything, they are much more motivated to learn the craft of product management, of consulting, of iBanking, of marketing, whatever it is, more so than even my generation was. You can take a couple of years to be an ABM and learn all the skills, and you kind of fail at it and suck at it. And then eventually you learn how to pull Nielsen data properly, all that jazz. Their cohort doesn't have the benefit of that time. So they have to figure out how to use AI at work as rapidly as possible and learn their craft at the same time. Yeah. I think it's that magic of craft plus AI acceleration. That's what's going to enable them to go create truly magical experiences. But it's going to be a couple of years before they get to do that, before at least they're senior enough to get to do that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, you just mentioned Nielsen, and that's something.
Sorry, did I traumatize you? Were you also ex-CPG?
Yeah, it's not a traumatizing thing. I was just thinking, like, I was a marketing major in college. So when I say marketer, through
Oh,
and
through
through,
and through.
yeah, but I don't remember ever talking about Nielsen, just as an example. That's not something we talked about. And so until someone tells you about it, you don't know. And that's in the workforce. So thinking about Gen Z and what they're going to experience, they still have to have someone tell them about Nielsen. They don't know. It's classic prompting. You have to know what you're trying to get out of it. You have to know
Yes.
what to ask. And
Yes.
that's going to be
Know what
very
good
interesting.
looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the really hard thing. Like, that's what I feel AI really does well is when it is outside of your sphere, it's almost like for those who play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't, but I know the concept. You have a certain amount of skill points, and most of my skill points are in marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have any skill points in engineering. I have a little bit in product management, a little bit in operations, but that's my skill set. Now, what AI can do is it can get me to average on
Mm-hmm.
each of those.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm a below average engineer, it'll dramatically improve my output. All of a sudden I can code. Fantastic, right? But instead of me just looking at a blank Jupyter notebook. But if, let's say, I'm already an above average marketer, it's not going to be good enough out of the box. How do I say this? AI can make you average at everything, which is great for the places that you don't have expertise.
Mm-hmm.
But AI will need your craftsmanship if you actually wanted to use it to get better at the things that you are already a good expert at. And I think that is the part that people don't seem to like really understand. Like there's AGI and this and that. I'm like, okay, even AGI is going to be an average human. And there are going to be things that you do, right? Like if you could quiz me on Harry Potter and Doctor Who trivia, I am above average and I will probably beat ChatGPT at a trivia game. But if I train it, then all of a sudden it could make me better. And I think that's where people misunderstand. They get really scared about AGI and get scared about all these things. And I'm like, yeah, like, computers only can do so much.
Mm-hmm.
They can only really do what you've taught them to do, what they've been taught to mimic. And honestly, most of what they can do is in the hard sciences. And I think the part of humanity that is the hardest for us to explain or teach is our creativity. And AI can't be creative. It is literally, by definition, there's
Spitting
a
out
word for it.
facts. Yeah.
Spitting out facts. But even when you ask it to create something, right? Create a song, create some lyrics, it is by definition derivative
Mm-hmm.
out of the corpus of human knowledge. And most of that corpus that we have that's codified, digitized, available in English or other easily scannable languages is primarily hard science. What you don't have is how many books are there that accurately and systematically define how to be creative?
Mm-hmm.
None,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard because it's such an innate part of being human. And so it's going to be really hard for us to teach. And so that's my big thing. It might take the job of a couple chemical engineers. And yes, it might be an average poet even, but it's not going to make you stop and think and feel in the same way that true art does, right? There's a difference between art and entertainment. And I think people often conflate the two. Art challenges you. It makes you grow. Entertainment is escapism. And I think that AI can create entertainment. I don't think it can create art yet.
And you have heard the hill that Sandhya is going to die.
One of my many AI hills.
Okay. I'm going to steer us in a different direction because I want people to learn more about you so they can see, hey, not everybody's technical. I know we've talked about our marketing background and that sort of thing, but tell me a little bit more about Glean specifically and what you do there and product marketing and that. Yeah, let's go on.
Yeah. So Glean is a work AI platform, which basically means we help people use AI across the company at every department and basically enable them. And there's a lot of ways that we do this. We bring a company's entire knowledge corpus into a knowledge graph. We then let you access it in different ways, whether it's APIs, whether it is prompting, the typical chat box experience, agents, whatever it is, we have multiple ways of accessing it. But that's basically what we do. And what I do there is I do a part of product marketing. So I'm not a typical PMM, but I do a combination of growth, which is just getting our users to understand it. So almost like AI literacy because of the nature of the product. But then also my favorite is I get to do technical thought leadership. And so really helping define Glean's point of view when it comes to some of these difficult and meaty topics like AGI, like AI UX, like what are the systems that are being created and how will they start interacting across different layers. And so, yes, that's what I get to do. And I'm still not sure how I get paid to do it, but it's the best job I've ever had, including the time I developed ice cream flavors.
Oh, that's a hard contender.
I know, right? That's always been the one to beat. It was my first job out of college. It was always the one to beat, but Glean wins.
So if somebody wanted to get to kind of where you are, how do they get there? I know, so we're both in Women Defining AI. Like, how'd you find that community? I think that's a great way to get there. What would be some tips?
Yeah. I would say the first thing you have to do is go find a problem. I find that so many people, they want to learn AI,
Mm-hmm.
but the reality is it's like, I want to learn how to use electricity. No, you need to have a problem. I want to light a room. I want to make a fan spin. And then you use electricity to solve it. But people don't seem to get that. They're just, I want to learn AI. So
Mm-hmm.
first things first, go find a problem. In my case, it was, my daycare sending me too many damn emails. So go find that problem. Then you explore AI intentionally. So you try different tools. You start with the basics, right? Start with ChatGPT, start with Claude, start with Gemini, whatever is available to you. Start with Glean if that's what you have at your company. But start with the basics of, okay, here's this tool that's going to help me just kind of attempt to solve it. And then try to solve it. And then you will hit a problem. And then you'll be like, oh, I can't quite, make this work. I'm going to need something where I can load up a bunch of information and then it'll be able to query off of that. Okay, well, how do I do that? Go ask the AI itself. Go ask the foundational model. Hey, how do I do this? And it will direct you to a custom GPT or a Glean agent or Claude's projects or whatever it is. Use the AI to learn about the AI, but it will direct you to what you need. And over time, what will happen is you'll pick up these tools and it'll be one more tool in your toolbox. It's like, okay, now I know how to use custom GPTs. Now I know how to use multimodal media. Now I know how to use Replit. Now I know how to use a Jupyter notebook. And the AI, because it's average at everything, will be better than you in the beginning. And eventually you'll hit the edge where you're like, oh, I can probably figure out how to do this better myself. And you'll cross that line. That point for me from going from, oh, I don't even know how to ask ChatGPT good questions, all the way to, oh, wait, I'm hitting the limits of what ChatGPT can teach me because I've hit the average point and now I'm trying to exceed it. That process took me about 6 months, which is not a long period of time.
Not at all.
And this was when, and I was working an extremely intense job as a chief of staff, and I have 2 kids at home. And I have a wonderful partner, but he was also busy with his own job and not able to support, my education in AI. And so this was just me going, okay, I have 20 minutes in between this meeting and this meeting. Let me see if I can squeeze in a little experiment. And this little microdosing of AI education was what helped me permanently have in the back of my head, okay, the next time I have a little break, how can I experiment? The next little thing that I'm going to test out. And it helped me intentionally. I had to focus, I couldn't set aside 3 hours to just do a thing. And so I had to break it down into little itty bitty pieces that I could make progress on. And so in my case, it was the daycare experiment. There's a bunch of experiments that we did through Women Defining AI, but really what it came down to was just doing these micro experiments over and over and over again, building out my toolbox to the point where I can now turn around and teach somebody when they have questions. And the magic aha moment for me there was when I finished my cohort. And I was like, okay, great. I finished the 101 cohort. And then the next cohort started and I was able to answer so many of their questions the way Helen did for our cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I know things now. I can share. I can learn. And all of a sudden it became so much more of this giving space where it was, okay, I give, someone shares their problem and then we all work on it together. I spend a lot of time and energy building female spaces. I contribute to a community called Moms in Tech. I'm the admin for a very large Facebook network called Little Brown Diary for South Asian millennial women living in North America with over 43,000 members. I'm part of Women Defining AI, And the thing I love about these spaces is there are other communities like this. There are other places where you can do similar work and learn similar things. But when it is a female environment, I just find that the energy is so much about building together that it's not about let me improve my individual expertise, but rather let me improve everybody's expertise so we all become AI experts. And then now I'm not just the AI marketing expert. I am one of many, like yourself. But then also now I have a community full of AI experts that includes someone whose background is law, someone whose background is accounting, someone whose background is education, and all of these different fields. And so all of a sudden, when I want to have an educated opinion about something, even if it's not me specifically having to go out and create that opinion, I have a very large community that I can tap because I've invested in helping them grow as well. And I think it's such a very collectivist, communal style. And I've spent a lot of energy building these communities because I've seen that happen, not just with AI, but with a lot of different topics. And I see that continuously. And so to me, that's part of the why I donate so much of my time and energy there, is because I get so much out of it as we're all helping each other.
I will say it's definitely, I'm a part of a lot of communities. Once COVID hit and everybody went remote, that was my way of keeping informed on things. And you see a lot of research about how they say entry-level employees aren't going to have the advantage that we had because we were in office and we had people to talk to. And I'm fully remote, proponent of being fully remote. So I'm not trying to say, oh, everybody should go in an office. We'll say that these communities have really filled that void. And not only that, it's the access, to your point, to so many different people. I mean, we have tons of lawyers. We have people in accounting. We do have the engineers, the really technical people.
I'm just surprised at how many engineers we have for a community that pushes itself as non-technical.
Yeah. And I'm in Dallas. And so in Dallas, it's not a big tech hub. So to have met all of these women that are on the East Coast or West Coast in the middle of this all, with all the contacts, with all the opportunities, I mean, it's been game changing. But I'm also glad.
I mean, I found my job at Glean through, a network connection through Women Defining AI. I wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. Glean gets far too many applications from the door, but this was my way in. And it was because this person had seen my effort and sort of my, space and givingness in the community. And we're like, oh, I think you'd be a great fit.
Yeah. I mean, that's a prime example of the power of this community, but there are so many smaller examples too. I'll give one. I needed a contact at Replit to do for my company, business development, that sort of thing, and could not get a hold of anyone. Looked on LinkedIn, who do I have mutual connections with? One of them was a lady that is in Women Defining AI. So we had a mutual connection. She knew somebody at Replit. I messaged her. It happened to be her brother.
Wow.
They do not have the same last name. She's married. So that's why, I would have never known. But when I asked her, hey, can you connect me to such and such at Replit? She's like, oh, yeah, that's my brother. Let me text him. So, I mean, it's such a small world once you get embedded in these communities. But I'm also happy.
The thing is, it's not just about AI too, right? This is true. I find my Slack communities are my lifeline for everything. I have an ops community that I love. Shout out to Wizards of Ops. I have a marketing community that I love. Shout out to Exit 5 and All In, right? These are amazing places, right? These are amazing places where you go and I think they work because they have that communal feel of we're all learning together. We rely on each other. Let's build each other up. Let's promote each other. And I think they do that really well. Compared to some of more pseudo-anonymous places like Reddit, it's not the same. And I think people appreciate that feeling of community.
Yes, agreed. And I think it's also helpful to see that other people don't know everything. So you start to see other people asking questions where you would have been afraid to ask a question in public. And it's like, well, I knew that. So if they didn't know that, then, and I'm not judging them because they didn't know that. So that means I can say something that they might know, and they probably aren't judging me either. So I love that feel about.
And I love it where I found some stuff, some guide or something that we found online. And there's a person who's running a business off of a concept or an idea of some sort of form of AI literacy. And you look into it And you go, oh, wait a minute, what we're doing within Women Defining AI is ahead of that curve. If there's a market for this, there's definitely a market for this level of expertise. And wow, just by participating in this community, I'm making myself marketable in an incredibly competitive job market.
Yeah.
And so aside from all the fluffy, rah-rah, yay community, I'm making myself more employable just by being in this community and actively participating. And that was the part for me that really blew me away. I was, wait a minute, I'm becoming one of those AI experts. To this day, and I say this with such pride, my husband is literally a machine learning engineer, but he will come to me first because he's like, you've probably heard about a tool or a topic before I have. But also, if you don't know, you have a community that you can tap.
Yeah. Usually are
Like
pretty.
before he does more than like a basic, chat GPT search, like he'll come be like, do you know about this topic already, and have a point of view? And oftentimes that's where my questions come from, right? He gives me the problems, and then that gives me a reason to go ask the community, go try something out, go experiment. And then I'm able to help him with his stuff simply because I have access to this space. And I think that's what's really powerful, not just about Women Defining AI, but all communities, but I think especially powerful here because it's this intersection of, I don't know what to say, openness, humility of everyone started from the beginning. Everyone started out not knowing what prompting was, and we've all been there. But also you have a ton of expertise at the same time. That multi-layer of coexisting without ego, that's really hard to find.
I agree. And I mean, I love all communities, but I think having a fully women and non-binary community allows that ego to be pushed aside a little better.
Yeah.
So you were saying you're always experimenting and things like that, which is a great way, obviously, to learn. And we started in Women Defining AI around the same time. And I feel like you are light years ahead of me already, which is totally fine. But how do you keep up with it all? Like are there newsletters you read? Is it purely just going in and, your husband coming to you with a problem, or are you trying to solve a daycare problem that you best keep up with all the changes and all the new technology and that sort of thing?
I would say it's a combination of things. I spend a lot of time. I've actually replaced all of my social media time on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok with LinkedIn.
Okay.
This has been a forced mechanism, as in I have an app that forces me to do this.
Which app is it?
Stay focused. If I spend more than 5 minutes on any of those apps, it'll turn off. And on the screen, it'll be like, shouldn't you be spending time on LinkedIn instead?
Wow, I'm going to have to get this.
Very forceful redirection. My network's not talking about AI, but you can follow people. And I think people forget this. They think of LinkedIn as, it's my group of people that I know. And I'm very particular. Like I only connect with people that I actually know, that I could like speak to their abilities or something in real life. But follow a ton of people. And what I do is I go find someone is announcing something, right? So Sam Altman's announcing blah, blah. He's a CEO. His stuff is going to be very filtered, very polished, PR ready, blah, blah. But guess who is not? Every marketer at his company. So what I do is I go follow every single marketer at OpenAI, right? So I take my function and I go and I follow that. And some folks will be more, verbose on Twitter. Some will not. But what they will do is what will happen eventually is they will be active, or they'll be commenting on something or liking something. And you slowly accumulate the legitimate series of not influencers, but one lever deeper where, here's a person who's spending a lot of time thinking about AI and marketing. One of my favorite finds for this example is Nicole Leffer. She runs a ton. She runs like a B2B marketing AI course. And I kept seeing her comments and her blog posts and everything, and her LinkedIn posts being referenced in other marketers that I was following. I was like, oh, this woman's doing something. Let me go follow her, and then subscribe to her newsletter. And that helped me so much when it comes to thinking about marketing and AI and the intersection in between. And this is my little cheat sheet. It's by no means a quick process. It takes months to build this. But if you actively devote the time, all of a sudden, my feed is just chock filled. Like, I still get my high school friends' motion and that kind of stuff too. But my LinkedIn is now to feed me very specifically thought leadership around AI, around marketing, around the future of the industry. Like if I see people that have like more than 5,000 followers, it means they are consistently putting out like really interesting stuff. Like you have to be actively doing it to get to that point. At the same time, anyone more than like 10,000, or they tend to be very generic, or they tend to be very high level, like company-wide, CEO level, very broad. And so if you want to go find your niche, it's somewhere between that 5 and 10, 5 and 15,000 followers. Those are the people who are really drilling down. They have a small niche, but they're probably serving it really well.
All right.
That's my biggest tip is like, go fix your LinkedIn.
See, this is why I wanted to do this interview, so I could learn everything. You can get caught up. All right. Well, we're almost at the end. Let's do some rapid fire questions. I'm going to do 5 rapid fire questions, which I didn't tell you I was going to do, so you weren't prepared for these.
Hey.
All right. First one. Favorite channel in the Women Defining AI Slack community?
Share demos and examples.
I knew you were going to say that one.
It's also the one I'm the most active in, but yes, share demos and examples.
AI tool you use daily. Other than Glean, we know Glean.
I was going to be like, damn it. Probably ChatGPT's advanced voice mode. I have a 45-minute commute. And so a lot of times what I do is I will just thought dump everything in my head and then have it make task lists and prioritize things and help me plan my work as I'm about to get into the office, either for the tasks I have to do that day or more likely all the stuff I need to do that evening once I get home from work.
Love it. If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
For the longest time, this was engineering and coding. It is no longer.
You don't need to anymore.
I think I would manage probably hostage negotiations because I have a 3.5-year-old. I would just say negotiating, mostly with my toddler. But it's also a great skill to have in general. I can say yes to everything, so probably helpful to learn how to say no or negotiate.
I mean, but you know how to make your life easier, so I'd say yes too. They're not crying, I'd say yes. What's a book, podcast, or resource that changed the way you think?
So I'm gonna share a very like deep story. This may not be what you meant in your quick questions. So when in like 2019, I read a book called Girl Wash Your Face.
I know. Yeah, Rachel Hollis.
And then I started listening to her podcast. And there was some episode in like 72 or something, very early podcast episode, where she talks about this process she does once a year, where she writes out what her life should be like in 10 years. And then she, like in incredible detail, the kind of shoes she wears in the morning, right? All sorts of details. And then she consolidates and turns it into a list of 10 goals. And every morning she wakes up and she writes these goals out as if they already happened. So it's like, I exercise every morning, right? I have a fantastic career that I love and blah, blah, blah. And I did that exercise in the beginning of 2020 in January, and I was considering leaving into it, and I was thinking about it. And one of my goals was I choose the bigger life, because I'm a person who's like kind of always played it safe. I've had my career, but like I've never always chosen the safe option, the secure option, the stable option. I want to really push myself. And I did that. And me writing that out every morning was part of the reason I joined deeplearning.ai, because I didn't even want to apply. But then the next morning I wrote it out and I was like, oh, damn it, I have to live this. Like, fine, I'll apply. There's no way I'm getting it in. And I got through every round of interviews. And then I got to a point where I got an offer and I was like, oh, I'm going to tell him no. Like Andrew Ng, for those of you who don't know, is like a very well-known name. Like pretty much every machine learning engineer you know has taken one of his courses.
Why you would ever say no?
Founder of Coursera. Yeah. But I literally told him no. Like I called him and I said, no, Andrew, I'm declining. Like I just don't think it's right for me. I'm really nervous about being able to do this job and I don't want to like let you down. And he made me meet him at a Starbucks and convinced me. And there is no way that I would have taken any of those steps. And he like had this whole conversation with me and he was like, I want you to just sleep on it and think about it. I'm not accepting your no yet. And then the next morning I got up and I did my morning ritual, which included I choose the bigger life. And I was like, damn it, I'm going to have to live this. And so I did. And that really turned on my world, right? That job did so much for me. And I'm still so thankful to Andrew for not accepting first no. As an entrepreneur himself, he's very used to it. But he was like, yeah, I wasn't going to let you say no. Nice try. Literally, I learned about AI because I had one-on-one sessions with him. We'd have our regular one-on-one to do work. And then he'd do an extra half an hour every week where he would answer questions for me about AI and machine learning. I took a bunch of courses from Deep Learning AI because I literally needed to market them. So that's my very long-winded answer, but like,
yeah, we're not doing great at rapid fire. I think but I think everybody needed that story. Also me, because I have the book on Kindle. I've had it for probably 7 years or however long it's been out and haven't read it. So maybe that's what I'll do.
Amazing book.
I will do it. Well, then I had one last rapid fire, and this might be the most controversial. What's your favorite Girl Scout cookie flavor?
Oh, so I had the pleasure.
Rapid fire.
No, I had the pleasure of making the ice cream version of Girl Scout Thin Mints when I was at Good Humor. It was fantastic, but also it has put me off of anything mint flavored for the rest of my life. At one point, I knew how to tell the difference by taste across 14 varieties of mint, and trust me, nobody needs that type of information in their heads. So my actual favorite is Samoa's, but we never made those.
Me too. Just bought a box yesterday from a girl in the mall. That's how
I need to find a Girl Scout. I can't find any of them. Where are you?
All right. Well, this was so much fun. I'm glad I got to interview you for your bucket list item, being on a podcast. I really appreciate it. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.